I'm here at the studio. It's a nice slow day. It's almost Christmas. Everybody's out picking up last minute gifts and making last minute projects, and that includes me. Anyway, I posted a project that I was working on last week onto the No Days Thinfuse glass group on Facebook, and Emily asked me, well, what is No Days Thinfuse? Because that's how I kind of glued it all together. And I thought, well, you know what? I'll just show you because I've got it right here. And I figure if Emily doesn't know what it is and she's on No Days Thinfuse glass group all the time and sees it, then there's probably other people that haven't seen it either. So this is what it looks like in the package. I've got my Morton System out to cut some strips. I've got some Fusers Reserve, and I've got a package that's already opened too. So I'm going to show you this real quick here. So the No Days Thinfuse, like the other adhesives, the No Days adhesives comes packaged in a roll with a release liner. And the white that you see here, that's actually the release liner. The actual glue, really hard to see, it's those ridges on there. That kind of shows you the ridges, right? So if I can kind of pull back the adhesive on a corner. This is not what you should do, by the way, when you're going to apply it. That's that glue. It's super thin. It's almost like a saran wrap, right? The consistency of saran wrap. So you don't want to pull it off of that backing before you know what you're going to do with it. So to start with, I've got my base of clear glass, and you can see I've put a little bit of Thinfuse on it already. The project that I'm going to be working on isn't huge. It's a 6-inch by 12-inch piece. It's going to go in the kiln and then get fired into a mold. And I'm going to lay out strips of the Fusers Reserve and some Crystal Opal all along the way. I've got some strips pre-cut already. That way you don't have to watch me cut them all. And I'm going to lay those out on an electric griddle because that's my preferred way of heating the No Days Thinfuse. It allows me to heat hands-free. You can also use a heat gun if you don't have a griddle, and since you're using fused glass, you've likely got a kiln, so you could use your kiln too, or a toaster oven even. But the thing that I love about the Thinfuse is that it sets up almost instantly. It gives me this really nice kind of faux tack fuse that allows me to flip the piece over as soon as I'm done cutting. So since I'm working with this Fusers Reserve and the pattern is on the one side of the glass, the other side is just blank, right? So I want to be able to put my pattern on my fused glass piece, and I'm going to cap it, and then I'm going to take it to the kiln and fuse it with the strips side down. Well, a lot of my students come in to use the studio here, and they have no way of working like this otherwise, because generally they have to put a piece of glass down and then build on top of the piece of glass, and then it goes into the kiln like this. Well, the Thinfuse holds really well, so it allows me to flip everything over instantly. All right, so I don't have a really good tripod for my iPhone that allows me to shoot these videos, but I'm going to show you with one hand how to do this, right? So I want my glue to be able to escape out between the layers while it's burning off in the kiln. And the Thinfuse is really, really thin, so it does burn off really easily unless you're working on this giant piece and you've got a bunch of glue in the middle and no way to allow it to escape, right? So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm working with these strips of glass, and instead of putting glue across the whole thing, I really don't need to have glue in the middle of the piece. I just want glue on both sides to secure those strips that are going to run along there. So I've got my Thinfuse glue side up. I'm going to turn my fused glass clear piece that's my topper. I'm going to put that on top of that strip of glue. So now you can see the ridges are right there. And I'm just going to take a razor blade and I'm going to zip this right along the edges. And hopefully that cut really well for me. There we go. And tear that off. And now I've got the Thinfuse on there, but guess what? The Thinfuse is still on that piece of paper, so I need to get it from the piece of paper onto the glass. So I'm going to turn my glass over and put it on the same side as the other glue that I've got down, and I lay this down just like that, and now I'm going to burnish it. What is burnish? Burnish is just a fancy way to say rub, right? So I'm gonna rub fancily. So I'm going to line this up where I need it, and I'm going to give it a nice rub. So I'm just using a fid here because I'm in the stained glass studio and we've got plenty of fids around, A wooden skewer works really well. The back of a spoon works really well. And I've taught classes traveling with the No Days Thinfuse, and I found that, you know, different climates really affect the way that this sticks, and some tools for burnishing work better in different climates. So, like I think in Florida, the back of a plastic spoon worked the best. In Nebraska, this time of year, that bid works fantastically, right? So just experiment until you find the right tool. And then I'm gonna kind of do like shelf paper. So I'm gonna peel back, and I'm just gonna go low and slow. I don't want to pull straight up because that's going to pull the glue off of the glass. So I just want to pull back and down, and that's going to keep the glue on the glass right where I need it. And you can kind of see there's a couple of wrinkles, right? Totally okay. Don't get bent out of shape by wrinkles or little holes, because the glass that I'm putting down is going to be bigger than those holes. So it really does not matter at all, right? This glue, it's not serving an aesthetic purpose. It's functional, so it's okay if it's wrinkled, right? All right, so got that. I need to cut some more strips of glass, so I thought you might like to see how I use the Morton System to cut a bunch of strips of glass really quickly. So here's the Morton System setup. We've got this waffle grid base. I've got the bar that's holding the cutting bar in place, and then I've got a ruler attached to the extension there. And if you can see, the extension has all the markings that I need. And notice says, hey, that's 1/8 of an inch. The end of the ruler is 1/8 of an inch, and you can see that little divot. Yes, 1/8 of an inch is where that ruler starts, and 0 isn't against the bar. 0 is about 1/8 of an inch out. And I'm sorry, my connection is weak. I'm getting a notification, so I hope this is working for everybody. Hope you can see what I'm doing. Anyway, I'm going to cut 1/2 inch strips here, right? So I'm going to move that to 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to strip the glass. Be careful, I want to keep straight up and down here. I don't want to tilt. Of course, I'm exaggerating there. If you're not straight up and down, you're not going to get a nice score at the right mark, right? So there's my score. I move my score line over to the 1/2 inch, and I'm going to give it another score. And if you're doing this, especially with thinner strips, it's best to make a whole bunch of strips all at once, and then cut them off individually. Not individually, sorry, in groups. The opposite of what I just said. If you cut them off individually with 1/2 inch, as long as your score is not too bad, you won't have any problem breaking those off. If you've got a really nice, consistent pressure on your score, you're not going to have any problems breaking those off individually. However, the skinnier your cuts get, so like 1/4 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch, the skinnier your cuts get, the more difficult it's going to get to break those off individually. So what I'm going to do is break them off in groups of 4s if I can, right? So move that to the edge of the table there. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm just going to take my running pliers and hold back as far as possible, give it a nice gentle squeeze, and that's going to break everything off. And then I'm going to go ahead and break those in half, and then those in half, and those in half. And same way all the way till the end, right? So since my connection's a little bit weak, I'm gonna try and do this fairly quickly, right? I hope you guys are able to follow what I'm doing here. I'm inside of this building that used to be a butcher, so it's really well insulated. So Wi-Fi signal is kind of weak, and the LTE signal isn't strong enough even for me to consider going live, so kind of stinks. All right, so here are my strips that I've cut of my clear crystal opal. So I'm gonna cut these off in even thinner strips, right? So I've got about 1/4 inch strips. So again, I want to break them off in groups of 4, and then I'm going to break those off in 1/2 and 1/2, 1/2, 1/2, and 1/2. Right? And then I've got my strips that I want to put in between my pieces. So I've got my griddle, and I've turned it on because I'm preheating my glass. This griddle, it's a cheapo that I got at Walmart. It basically, anymore you plug it in and it's on. It's not hot enough when you plug it in and turn it on. So I turn it to about 150, and that's hot enough. The adhesive is going to cure at 160, so obviously the thermostat's off a little bit on that. But I'm going to lay out my strips and my pieces of glass in between. Notice some of my pieces here, they've got little flares on them, so that's what I would use this guy for. Just kind of go across the edges to get rid of those flares. Okay, so I'm going to, let's see. All right, here we go. So I'm going to break some more pieces of glass here. I'm going to group them up in 4s. And then 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. And the more you practice this, the better you get, just like anything, right? Easy peasy. And I broke exactly where I wanted them to, so now I'm going to go ahead and put them back in the plate here. Kind of moving aside. And yes, this glass is hot. You might not want to turn it on before you put your pieces. If you're using a griddle, you might not want to turn the griddle on before you put your pieces in. But for sake of quick video, so you guys don't have to sit here and watch me all day do this, you know how, you know, the magic of cooking shows. Well, I tried to make it kind of like that. Prep part of it. Get these pieces kind of lined up. Okay, and then I'm going to bring my top sheet of glass, glue side down, right? So the glue side needs to face the glass. So I'm going to go ahead and put this down right on top of the glass. And then, look at that, you can see it activating almost instantly there, right? So the nice thing about this is I don't need to worry about my edges. You know why? Because the glue is activated and I can just scoot all these pieces right back to the middle where I need them to be. And especially as this glue activates a little bit more, I can see where it's kind of sticking onto some of these pieces because it doesn't slide really easily, but it will. And with one of the plates that I recently did, I actually had a bunch of strips that I didn't cut to fit already. So I had them sticking out on both sides, and I kind of fiddled with the pattern and the design of the Fuser's Reserve. So basically what happens is once this is set, I can feel the top piece of glass. It's still not too hot to touch, which means it's not really sticking yet. But once that gets too hot to touch, and if you know, I don't mean like lay your hands down on it, you know, you kind of do this kind of thing like, oh, it's hot, right? So once that's too hot to touch, then I know that that adhesive is totally set up, and then I can go ahead and turn off my griddle. And I'm going to do that, I'll just do that right now. I think it's pretty close. Do that right now, and I'm going to unplug it, remember, because it says, I told you that this isn't the greatest griddle. The off is actually when you unplug it totally. So I've got a few minutes. I can fiddle with this to get the pieces exactly where I want them. And then when this cools down, I'll be able to flip it over if need be. So like I was telling you, I had those longer strips that stuck out along the edges underneath. And what happens is when that's completely tacked, I can flip it over, and then I can just run the glass cutter along the edges of the glass to score and disconnect the people exactly where I need it, the glass pieces, the strips, exactly where I need them. So I'm going to show you a couple pieces that I've got in the kiln right now that I use this technique for. As you can see, the kiln's still kind of hot, so I'm giving you a sneak peek. Theoretically, probably shouldn't open the kiln, but I'm going to do it. Ready? So you can see right there is the finished piece, and right there, that's the other piece, that red one and that green one right there, right? So that... Hello everybody, just a quick follow-up to yesterday's live video, which you can find by going to the No Days Adhesives homepage and then clicking on the replay link that I posted there. Or I think you can even watch the live video from the homepage still. I think they saved them. Anyway, this is round 2 of the Thinfuse plate. So you can see, so I used the No Days Thinfuse yesterday, so you can watch that video if you didn't see it already, and basically created this faux tack fuse. So I glued everything down like this, and it's glued now. It's this faux tack fuse, so nothing's going anywhere. However, when I cut my pieces, I was a little bit off. I was kind of in a rush, so I did a little bit fast. But this gives me a good chance to show you the other reason that I really like Thinfuse. I can prevent having to cold work all those pieces, so I don't have to be really exact when I build, because I can go back in here and score the extra pieces off and then just snap them off with my breakers. So again, a little one-handed action here. I'm going to come in here and just score right at the edge of the plate. There we go. Got a nice score line. And then I'm going to take these over to the edge of the table, and I'm just going to pull these extra pieces off now. And I like to save these extra pieces, all those little extra bits, because if you put them on a kiln shelf by themselves in full fuse, you get all sorts of fun little dots, and everybody around here really loves the dots. So here's my one-handed breaking action here for you. And now, after I've gotten all those broken off and smoothed out, I won't have to worry about fusing and then having to do any cold working, aka grinding, when it comes out of the kiln, because my edges aren't nice and straight. So that's basically, that's really all I had to show you today. I could have done this yesterday, but I ran out of time. I had to leave the studio and go run some errands. You guys know how that is. The thin set is great because it sets up right away, so after I've heat set it and let it cool back down, I could have, like I said, done all this cold working, preventative cold working, right at the same time, and then got the kiln loaded, but I was waiting for the kiln to cool down anyway, so there wasn't really a hurry. But there you go. That's all there is to it. And actually, I do have one last thing to show you, because that piece right there, it's alive and well, finished, and hanging out with another fun piece just like it right here. So look at those. I think they turn out great. And you can see there's no residue in there from the Thinfuse. It just burns right out. Look at how great that looks. And here's, this one's awesome, a little flame. Right, so short and sweet today. That's really all I had to show you with just that last minute trick for the Thinfuse. Hope you're all having a great holiday weekend. Got all your shopping done, got all your cooking done, get to hang out with the family. Let's see. Bye. Happy holidays. We'll see ya.